We are back, and it's a new year with I'd say a new update. As we know, senior living, aging, healthcare, technology, what are we doing? Where is it going? And we have some fantastic guests that happen to be at the Consumer Electronics Showcase in Vegas here. And I think we're going to see and hear about some pretty interesting tech. Given that Catherine is in this space, what's kind of your initial thoughts here before we dive in?
Well, I can't wait to talk to this group of folks from AgeTech Atlanta and the AgeTech group about what they saw at CES. Anyone who goes to CES knows that that is where all the futuristic tech is. It is where you go to find out what is coming. And we all know that senior living and senior care, we now at Serenity, we talk about it as just people who age. People who age need to have some sort of support. It's not replacing humans. It's how can technology support the humans who are providing the care. So I cannot wait to hear all of the things that they learned and they saw. And this is a great follow-up to the same podcast that we did this time last year at CES. So we'll learn not only what was new this year, but what's different and what has changed from last year.
And my quick belief on the tech is it's an augmentation, supplementation, not a replacement. So I think it's super important. And with that, we're going to bring on Jeff Gray, one of the founders of AgeTech Atlanta and AgeTech, I'd say nationally now. You can dive a little bit into that. And then we also have Joel Shapira, who is an advisor of AgeTech and also is chair president of the AgeTech Chicago division. So thank you, gentlemen, for both of you joining. And Jeff, we'll kind of start with you since obviously we're here because a lot of your brainchild here essentially is really morphed.
True.
Yeah.
So tell our audience what is AgeTech to begin with, and then let's talk about CES.
Yeah.
Well, so AgeTech we're the fastest growing AgeTech ecosystem in the world now. What started out of Atlanta has grown to include thriving communities connecting innovators in LA, Denver, Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., and Toronto.
Oh,
we have 3 meetups in the next week and a half. We have meetings in Toronto, New York City, and Chicago, and Toronto, 4, I should say. So really a thriving community. And it all started by kind of connecting the whole ecosystem in Atlanta in a way no one had done before. So we reached out and we brought together the educators, the researchers, the scientists, and the startups, and the investors, and the enterprises, and then the healthcare systems and all those systemic players. And the model we created there, we just replicated it across the country. So we kind of have these super regions, and we're thrilled about where we've been, but also excited about where we're going.
And Jeff, what is the goal of AgeTech? Why bother to bring all these people together?
Well, it's to support the innovators. That's the whole point. And I don't think it's really been done in the way that we're approaching it in a no application required format. So we're reaching out to everybody who's innovating at any level, trying to solve problems around aging. So that's why we exist. And we believe we do that best by providing those innovators increased access to capital, content, customers, and community. And so everything we do is created in an effort to at least hit on one of those core themes, if not all 4.
Great. And I just to dive for our audience, it's that's the goal of the AgeTech Atlanta. But what problem did you see that just wasn't being solved that would require us to invest in innovators in this way?
Well, I mean, we certainly look. So I think we don't need to on this call probably dive in too deeply because I think the audience are well versed as well. But we see healthy, active aging in the United States, in our society as a whole, as an unfulfilled birthright. It's something that we should all expect in this society that we live in. But today it's really only accessible to the very wealthy, and as we like to say, the genetically gifted, right? So for some few of us, we have access to this. But from there, we really are working within a broken system and an overwhelmed system. And so we see technology playing a key role in bringing a better, healthier, more active aging to the United States, but also globally. So we have global participants in our program. That's the broken thing that we're set about trying to fix.
Perfect.
Yeah. So with that, let's dive into, you hosted, was it the second annual, right? The second year that you guys did this innovation showcase at CES. Is that correct?
It was the first year we did the
first year. Okay.
So this was my fourth time to CES. Last year, Joel, who's on the call with us, who now runs Chicago, was with us last year. We kind of did an at-large, men at large, or men and women at large, roaming the convention center in the Venetian Expo Hall, looking for what was happening. This year, we did an innovation showcase where we brought 12 companies from the ecosystem. The showcase was funded by a group of partners led by the Metro Atlanta Chamber.
That's cool. Wow.
Yes. So 9 of the companies were Atlanta-based. The other 3 were from the broader ecosystem. So yes, we had a group of 12 there who enjoyed that. And I will tell you, for those of you who see this, if you were there, it was a cool experience. It was our first one. We had a small-ish footprint, but 12 great companies. Down the aisle, we could see the AgeTech Collaborative AARP booth, which I believe was 12,000 square feet, which was a little bigger than our 200 square feet.
Yeah, just a smidgen. Just a smidgen.
But isn't that great? So the important thing there is to tell people that at CES, this major consumer electronics show, which they're looking to rebrand because it's more than consumer electronics now, actually had 2 dedicated spaces to people who age. Joel, you were about to say something, and I would love to have you share with our audience a little bit about your background too, and what has you interested in this, because that informs what you looked at in terms of technology at the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. My background, I've been in technology for 30 years in different ways, shapes, and forms, and got interested in the world of technology for older adults about 15 years ago when the first baby boomers were turning 65, and now many of those first baby boomers are at a different stage and needing different things. And I've been so thrilled and excited about the potential to really impact not only older adults, but all the people who love and care for them, right? Whether they're family members or medical professionals and many more. And we're just we're at the end of the beginning of that era. And I think what we're seeing at something like Consumer Electronics Show is just the excitement of how technology can really create impact for all these people. And the splash that we had, I was itching because what Jeff was describing, there was a pickleball court associated with the ARP pavilion, right? So we're not just talking about healthcare. We're not just talking about technical things, technology for caring. We're talking about tech that can enable thriving lives. And there's so much of what Jeff's done with AgeTech Atlanta to showcase this intersection of technology that can impact so many different people. And we want to be a part of not only just highlighting what could be, but then being a bridge to how that technology can actually reach the market at scale. And that's really the difference of what hasn't happened over the last 15 to 20 years. But we're at a really exciting time now. And things like being showcased at a major event with over 140,000 people in Las Vegas just raises the bar in terms of the awareness and exposure. And we want to build on that too, creating these hyper local communities that can help do this on a regular basis, not just once a year in Las Vegas.
Right. Did you guys feel that there was more interest or curiosity this year around the tech in the healthcare aging space than prior years? Or is this kind of the same as it's been of it? You know, it's a nice to have, we know we need it, but we're still not ready to put that as the forefront of a key piece of technology.
Joel, what do you think? I think we're building momentum. I think that we're building off of what has played out in particular since the implications of COVID-19 have sort of manifested themselves, and people were hearing about different things. And so this has really grown year over year. Jeff, as Jeff was saying, we were walking around last year in Las Vegas and recognizing the momentum that was building, and then we tried to capitalize on that. So I would say, you know, last year ARP showcased maybe 10 or 12 companies. This year they had 24, and AgeTech Atlanta had another 12. Yes. And there were many other companies, as Jeff and I and others in the group walked not only through the Venetian, which is where we were based, but also at the convention center. There were many other companies now that could have an impact. They wouldn't think of themselves necessarily as age tech companies, but they absolutely had value as it relates to older adults and people of all ages living healthier and impacting their aging process.
Yeah, and I think that's something very interesting, Joel, that you call out is the CES is a massive show, and it's across 3 or 4 very large locations, and you're sort of bussed between them. I usually attend. I wasn't able to attend this year, but there are large sections that are related to medical innovation, and many of those, like the toilet seats that can determine if you have a UTI, perfectly aligned with people who age, since that's one of the major issues, right? But it wouldn't be considered part of the age tech. They wouldn't think of themselves there. They think of themselves in the medical world. So the interesting thing is, this presence, it tripled based on what you just said, Joel. It tripled from last year, the presence of people who specifically say we are innovating in age tech. But if you really take it all into account, I bet it more than tripled based on all of the other things that are there, the hearing aids, the vision, mobility things, just about anything you can imagine. Would you agree with that, Joel and Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, we weren't, by the way, just as a footnote too, we weren't explaining age tech this year.
I think that's the biggest
year. So,
that's an important statement. Let's say that again. You didn't have to explain age tech to people this year. That's new. In the past, you would have had to say this is that's a big deal.
So Jeff or Joel, whoever wants to jump in, what would you say your top 3 takeaways are from the emerging technology or just the tech companies that you saw there?
I'll start with a couple, and then Joel, we'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
I'll start with what I think we don't need to see more of. I feel like we've kind of hit this point of beyond diminishing returns around the whole sensor concept.
Thank you.
It's like I think like we've taken leave of our sensors. It's just so much sensors. So that said, we had a lot of walk-ups, people who were working on their new product within the category. So I think that is going to be interesting to see what happens there. Gordon saw, I think he was either in a talk or maybe down in Eureka Park. There was some company that was working with one of the automated vacuums, like a Roomba, that was also a sensor. I think we're going to see more common sense stuff like that maybe take over the market. Okay. But there are some great, by the way, still some great sensor technologies out there. There's going to be some winners. We had, I think, one of the folks that I think will do really well was in our showcase, which was Threshold, which is a sensor that it's just a little plug into a plug-in. It's the easiest, fastest, simplest thing you've ever seen to use in the whole world, and their product roadmap includes integrating with some other stuff that helps you have a better, more an automated home in some really kind of different ways. But I think so. We'll see more simplicity. We'll see lower price points, and I think we'll see that stuff. That'll all shake out. There'll be some winners. I think Joel would maybe echo this, but I think we are seeing the emergence of more deep tech, more robotics, more AI.
Jeff, can you expand a little bit more on deep tech? Because that's
nuanced
word there.
Here's my best example, and they're not a newcomer, but the proto technology, right, which is holographic imaging, right? So this, they had, some of the AARP leadership, including Andy Miller, appearing in these hologram booths.
Whoa!
Which certainly has a wow factor, welcoming guests to their pavilion. But the really profound thing is, imagine being able to have a virtual visit like that with your doctor, such that you feel like you're sitting right in front of your doctor. But he's presented as a live hologram, maybe 1,000 miles away. Really, totally disruptive, crazy technology that's just going, leaps and bounds beyond anything we're seeing today. I think we're seeing more of that. Also really transformative tech. What might have been an example was the ChemTie. How do they describe that? It's basically virtual physical therapy, right? So a fully AI-driven physical therapy session with a camera that's watching what you're doing and give you real live guidance, all automated, all technology.
Wow.
So you're seeing some of this technology start to really deep technology, real incredible core intellectual property. I think you're seeing more and more of that. There's a couple of things that stood out to me. I don't know, Joel, maybe you have,
Yeah, I was also going to reference ChemTie, Jeff. So I'm glad you mentioned them. And I'm always attracted to the simple, more elegant solutions that don't require major behavior change on the part of the users. And I saw a lot more things that were easier for people to engage with. I thought the ChemTie as one example. You're using your computer, you're using your laptop, you're using your smartphone, and there's nothing you have to learn, but there's so much feedback there. So I wanted to echo that technology. I also saw some things robotics oriented that also had a voice component to it, and it had a conversational style. So it very much felt like we're getting real-time feedback, but not from a computer, not from a robot. It felt very personalized and human. And anything that is tech, but also has sort of a human-centered approach, I feel like those are the types of technologies that are ultimately going to win. I like the things that also they leverage a tech-enabled service, but they're also about lifestyle issues. So one of the other companies, that was featured, I'm going to highlight in the AgeTech Atlanta booth was Deadbook, which is also just a really exciting technology to help people manage all the documentation, all the end of life components of their portfolio, right? And amazing founders who are leveraging TikTok in a way that we haven't even really seen in the age tech space. So,
hey,
it's right, Jeff?
On that.
Well, that's going to be interesting now.
That's the TikTok story.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of slow time, CES ebbs and flows. So Jessica Tillery, co-founder of TikTok, co-founder of Deadbook, did a TikTok to drive some more traffic to the booth that got 2 million views.
What? Wow.
That's fantastic.
Do you think that, because I know that a lot of senior living companies and even healthcare is afraid of the social media exposure. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are pushing it as much as it should. Do you think that's an untapped area of getting more creative and fun with kind of using the TikToks, the Instagrams, the whatever other social media is going to come up?
You can have fun with death. You can have fun with anything. So
fair. All right, there you go.
Fair.
Can I
want to say, we did have some really spectacular companies in the Atlanta Showcase. I mean, I think what Total Life is doing, making it really, really easy for seniors covered by Medicaid and Medicare to access mental health care. The numbers that she's been putting up are just absolutely crazy. Certainly. Looking at, we have GlucoSense, which is founded by a guy named Jonathan Fitch out of Georgia Tech, which is pure software, not a glucose monitor, but integrates with all the products out there that lets you manage your diet and your blood sugar better and understand it, and even predict when you may be looking to have a bad event because of where your blood sugar levels are and how to remedy that. And they're gamifying that right now. Really crazy breakaway stuff. And Live Labs, it's re-engineering, a lifestyle product for women who want to be able to have what's called a pelvic floor support, so better pelvic floor health. That's never been, envisioned. And by the way, a lot of those, like Live Labs, like GlucoSense, these products are not purely for aging people, but they profoundly serve aging populations. And as we see, when we serve older adults, when we serve the needs of children, when we serve the needs of people with different abilities, when we solve for those issues, we solve for everybody. Right, we make the world better for everybody by solving at that level, and you see just tons of that in what's happening with AgeTech right now.
Can I ask you both a question real quick around falls? Was there any new creative tech around either fall mitigation, fall prevention, or just reducing the severity? The impact, the problems with falls, right? Because falls obviously, if for an older adult or a lot of us can cause head trauma, the broken bones and shortening longevity, changing lifestyles, all that stuff. Was there any newer tech in that aspect?
I didn't see anything new in fall detection. So I don't know if you did, Joel, but I didn't see.
I saw. I don't want to say more of the same. I saw some players that I've seen over the years doing new things. Mm-hmm. And different kinds of detection. I would like to see more on the prevention side, or to mitigate, as you pointed out, Francis, the mitigation of the cascading effect from a fall. We all know, and those of us who have experienced it with a loved one know how catastrophic an individual fall can be, let alone a series of falls. So I still think that's an area, a more proactive component of where the technology can go, that we haven't quite seen a game changer yet.
Okay. I think reliable in-home fall detection isn't here yet. I think you have to remember from a consumer perspective, by the time somebody would install anything like that in the home, the odds are that you have an older adult that is a faller. They're not a fall risk. They are falling. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't probably, not negating Joel's sentiments, I agree, but probably the predictive side. No one gets this kind of technology for someone who's totally healthy and says, well, let's just install it all and then let's just see if we ever have, predict. But I think the detection piece is vital. I did meet I did meet one kind of potentially new technology. It's coming. It's actually not new in Europe, but in the U.S. But more reliable in-home fall detection, which just really is an open area. I think it's going to be a game changer when you can plug something in that will have somewhere in the range of a 99%, hit rates to know when somebody's fallen and is on the floor. And we don't really have a great in-home solution like that that's available today. I think we'll see where we are next year, but that's a biggie. That's a biggie.
As an operator, that's where our area is how can we improve reducing the number of falls, right? Yeah. As someone's aging, and then also reducing the severity of those falls, right? Falls are going to happen, right? Regardless, you can be standing next to somebody and they can fall, right? The key is how do we limit that to more bumps and bruises than some type of break or fracture, because that's what we know is, life expectancy drops almost dramatically. I think it's under 6 months over, I can't remember, it's either 80 or 85 with a fall with a pelvic break, I believe, right? And stuff like that is how do we limit that severity? That's just the area that is, I think, important for operators and even, home health providers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're ready for a breakthrough, as you said, technology isn't perfect. So it has to get out there and get tested and continue to evolve. I remember when the Apple Watch came out with the fall detection, and suddenly on ski slopes, the EMTs were getting calls left and right because people were falling, but they weren't falling in a detrimental situation that they needed emergency services. So we just have to be patient with tech too. I really loved what you said earlier, Jeff, about these technologies they serve a lot of people. They just particularly help older adults. If you take that lens to CES overall, my guess is CES is probably 25% in that category, the whole show, because there's so much that's medical and diabetes management and vision and hearing and mobility and all the other things. And that's what I'd love to see is CES taking that. Let's get all of us together and really collaborate big.
Agreed. This, by the way, a positive change I felt this year, Joel, chime in, was digital health and all the devices and stuff that used to be, Kath, that used to be over in the convention center. That's now all been merged into the Venetian Expo Hall. So we didn't.
There's movement.
Because that used to be really a headache to kind of, to get over across town there. That's a lot. That's not a short trek.
Wait for the bus.
During the middle of the show. So it was great to have digital health merged in with smart home and all that other stuff, lifestyle, AI, robotics, all that great stuff was there. By the way,
it felt more cohesive than in the last couple of years. I would reinforce that.
By the way, I saw probably the coolest ADU technology I've ever seen. The accessory.
What's ADU?
Accessory dwelling unit, right? So these are the prefabbed, units that you can buy. A very large number of the locales throughout the U.S. have changed. There have been changes in zoning that permit these to be on property. In California, I think in most communities they can actually be sold. They can be parcelized and sold separately.
I think Denver can do that now too, Jeff. I think it was passed last year, I want to say.
So this one's called House, Haus or SE. Unbelievable. A little bit expensive, but just the most brilliantly beautiful thing you've ever seen.
How so? Explain it for our audience.
Well, first of all, they're engineered, so they're very contemporary design. It doesn't look like a mobile home, or nor does it look like a modified shipping container. These are manufactured to a whole different standard. They are built to run the whole. We looked at one of the smaller ones that was there on display. They'll run most of them off of an extension cord because of the way the power plant is built. The way the structure is built, they don't need a foundation. They can also be, you can actually also purchase from them an upgrade to the package that lets you right out of the box manage them as an Airbnb if you want. So you can create a revenue from them. It's interesting. Unfortunately, I know we've all kind of seen this. While we were there, the Southern California fires were under full blaze. And the founder of the company said his phone, so they may be busy. He said, my phone's been going crazy with people wanting to order these units for people who homes. But, I think ADUs are probably never going to be a hugely mainstream thing, but this was every once in a while you see a product that's just sort of catches your imagination by how brilliantly it's engineered and how beautiful it is, right? They're sort of like the MacBook of ADUs, right? Just a beautiful product.
I pulled them up real quick, and I can see I think it's a fantastic next iteration, though, because I think the negativity around an ADU is, it's just this boxy thing that's hooked onto my garage, right? I mean, all these, it's gonna, I got to walk upstairs to it or whatever it comes to be. But I mean, just looking at even their 2-bedroom in Colorado, if you could find some land for that, that's really inexpensive. So, I mean, from, certain markets, it could be a huge saver for creating a micro community.
People who are
right?
aging.
Yeah. Or even for people that are trying to get in the housing market, that you could have your staff housing with older adult housing. I think there's so many different ways you could use that to benefit affordable housing components. Then that can feed back into the care system. Right. So,
yeah. And I think one of the uses of the ADU, I think, it's the less talked about is actually the ability for you to have a unit for a caregiver to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So being able to, if you need that care, being able to have better economics by saying, hey, we can do a live-in arrangement, offset some costs, or to have a family member that would kind of move in to assist with.
Joel, what were you going to say?
I was just going to add, this was no granny pod, which is typically where the ADUs get, right? Like so much innovation that gets pigeonholed as for older adults. This was ageless and well-designed and attractive. And as Jeff was pointing out, could be used in different ways to support people and caregivers and other and children. So it was a way to bring a multi-generational component to this new way of that we're going to live longer, better.
Yeah, that's just cool. No, it's a really cool piece of tech, I think.
Very inspiring.
And we've got Gordon.
Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to tell you guys, I'm glad Gordon could join us because he is really the man at large at CES. If there's one of us,
so you got your steps in, Gordon.
Gotta go out there and find those gems. It's going to be Gordon Rogers. So.
All right, Mr. Rogers.
Gordon, the floor is yours, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, this is a new platform for me, so I guess I took Francis' advice, logged out, logged back in, but I was lurking the whole time. I was online. I could listen to you and hear you. And
we love
see
lurkers.
Yes, so I guess I'm done lurking. But as Jeff said, I'm sort of the person at large there. I spend a lot of time with the group. The Consumer Technology Association has a foundation, and they always have these pitch competitions and other ways to support early stage companies, but their focus is on making technology available to people with both disabilities and who are older adults. And the older adult part has really just been added in the last couple of years. So now a lot of the companies they focus on, they're not just for people with certain disabilities, they're for people with aging challenges. And they conduct a tour, a guided tour, and this is the way to go if you're not sure. I'd highly recommend it for anybody who's first time at CES. You log in on Zoom, so you've got your headphones, and they're talking to you while they're wandering around the show floor, and they've pre-programmed visits with certain booths. So those people at those booths are expecting this crowd of people from the CTA Foundation, and there were probably 25 or 30 of us. And rather than try and struggle and get to the front of the crowd so you can hear, You just have to have your headphones on and you can hear what the booth is doing. And we were fortunate enough to get them to stop by our booth at AgeTech Atlanta. So we got some great exposure there as well. But some of the companies that were in their cohort and that did apply were companies that have been a part of our community over the last couple of years. We had Lotus, which is the ring that lets you turn on and off lights. We had Wave Therapeutics was in there. And one of the things, one of the other programs they do besides the pitch competition is they grant free booth space to some of these startups. You have to apply and you have to show that you're going to help change the world. And both Wave Therapeutics, which has displayed and competed in our past pitch competitions, and Lotus, which competed and won 2 years ago, both received scholarships to attend in the Eureka Park level, which is the early stage startup level. But that's where you see the most exciting stuff. So I was thrilled that we got to see them, and that these companies that are in our ecosystem are still out there and making progress and getting lots of publicity, because the people on this foundation committee, they're all the funders. These are the grant makers that keep the foundation allowing to do its philanthropic work. So they're influencers. And I was really thrilled that they got to see these early stage startups, and as well as the people in our booth, and they got a chance to meet some of our 12 representatives. And
they had their first IDD, so intellectual and developmental disabilities themed pitch competition, and first place and second place went to AgeTech community members. So Costin and On Screen won first prize, and Matt Golden and Map Habit won second prize. So from the AgeTech community, we have number 1 and number 2 in the IDD.
So we know how to pick them. We know.
Wow.
And it's showing innovation, which is what we started this whole conversation with. This is all about innovating so that how did you say it, Jeff, that we can fulfill our birthright of healthy aging.
Yep.
And sometimes you get these serendipitous coincidences. One of the presenters or competitors in their pitch competition in Eureka Park was Blueberry Technology. And they have essentially a self-guided wheelchair to help people who need assistance guide themselves from the airport curb to the plane gate. And you just program in where you want to go, and it takes you. Now, we have one of our exhibitors in our booth called TravelSist, and their whole value added is to bring people to the plane who need assistance and guidance. So, to me, there's a symmetry there, and they're going to talk to each other. So they probably wouldn't have met each other if it wasn't for that show.
But I think both of those companies are going to do fantastically well.
I would agree.
We can't. All of us have seen the increase in wheelchair assists, and it's just overwhelmed the staff. In fact, Gordon, I was right off my plane, and I saw what we were talking about in Las Vegas was one airport worker pushing 2 wheelchairs. And and by the way, do that all the way through an airport. They're not doing that because it's more fun. No. They don't have enough staff, and so
on that, I saw the same thing, Jeff, and I started to make note, and I thought we should do a survey. Somebody should do a survey of these poor airport workers. Like, how often are you pushing 2? Because it's a struggle, and I could see them trying to navigate down a narrow hall to get to the elevator, navigating 2 people. And it seems to be there's a severe shortage of those workers. So what can we do to make their life?
I would also think of this going back on quality of life. The minute you can make traveling easier for someone that has any health issues, aging, health, otherwise, the more you give them a true independence and freedom, right? I mean, the biggest challenge I hear from all of our
driver's license.
Well, it is, but even all the families, or even my own mom, my grandmother's, just had her 97th birthday here, January 12th. The challenge of traveling with her is the challenge itself, right? It's not once we get there, it's basically getting her from her current, senior living through all the 15,000 steps it is before you even get to your destination. By that point, my mom is just exhausted already. And it's like, so if we can find ways to simplify the travel experience, whether you're living with dementia or some other physical ailment, that's the game.
It represents, absolutely.
I love that stuff.
And
that's cool.
Your grandmother's 97. Wow. I keep reminding Francis that he has longevity on his side.
I'm sure my stress level is a lot different than hers. So
I just want to add, as we're talking about airports and mobility, I've had a simmering idea, and I'll use this. I'm not doing this yet, but maybe the community wants to respond. I've long thought that the airport would be a wonderful place to showcase multi-generational age tech technology, right? When we're all sitting waiting for our planes or navigating through the airport, you have all sorts of generations walking through there.
Yeah.
Why don't we have centers of innovation in our airports talking about this different technology? So this will be the launch pad. And if somebody wants to run with the idea, giddy up. But why not?
Well done.
Right?
Well done. That's a great idea, Joel. It's a great idea. And I was thinking, this ties to what I was thinking with the wheelchair conversation, that's not fun for the staff, but it's also not fun for the people in the wheelchair. Because they know how awful for them too. And what you just described allows people of all generations, whatever's happening in their life. We've all had someone in our life that has needed help in some way, shape, or form, to get inspired. If nothing else, to get inspired about something that could reduce friction in this journey.
Mm-hmm. We all have seen what is out there, and I think opportunities like what we saw in Las Vegas and the various events we're doing across the country gives people a chance to see what could be possible, what else is out there, what could impact their lives and the lives of their loved ones. And that's partly what has to shift dramatically to get from where we are to a point of these technologies being adopted at broader scale, and for the right funding to help drive the engines of these companies to grow and scale. And that's a big part of what is still missing in the industry, and part of what, as Jeff pointed out in the beginning, what the AgeTech Atlanta network started and what we're building out. We want to power those, we want to help people get access to customers and capital and community and content. So let's reinforce that. And the capital piece is a sorely lacking component of it.
I can speak from.
And you can't go to this thing and not give a huge shout out to the AgeTech Collaborative from AARP.
Yeah.
They if there's one of the reasons we're not explaining AgeTech to people anymore is because of all of the investment they've made in the space.
Yeah.
And it's, and certainly their investment in what they do at CES has been huge. And it's been, just been a driving force positively in our growth as the world has come to understand what we're doing, what it's all about, and it's mainstreamed the category, which has been a big win for all of us. So kudos to them.
So I have a question. To sort of bring it to a close here, let's go around to Jeff, Joel, and Gordon each. If you would share, we have a very wide audience. So it could be people who are, just beginning this aging journey and don't know anything about the industry, to people who are immersed in age tech and the entire industry. Who should go to CES next year? And what is your favorite thing that we should all be watching for this year that came out of CES? Jeff, you want to start?
I think if you are a person that's, I'm 62, so I view myself as entering my older years, and I say that in a very positive way. I think people my age and older should go, and the loved ones who care for them. I think more, as many consumers as can go and experience that. And I think if you are involved in a business of any kind that addresses the needs of older adults, I think CES from an industry perspective is a must attend. There are other conferences that focus on healthcare and long-term care and insurance, but I don't think there's another place you can go to see more technology in one spot that's geared towards improving the aging experience. And then looking forward, I think the one thing that is a little we haven't touched on, but I'm really excited about anything that empowers people to take greater responsibility and control of their own aging. And so any products and services and technologies that let people take control and be in the driver's seat, or that inspire them to greater health through fitness training, strength training, better diet, better socialization, better access. All of those things really interest me because, technology alone is not going to solve all ills, and personal accountability and a new era of people thinking forward about themselves as they age and wanting to live independently, wanting to live actively and healthily, I think is really the new paradigm. So I'm excited to see more of it.
Great. Joel.
I would echo what Jeff's saying and add, we need more and more around the longevity component of lifestyle and what does it mean to live healthfully. And so AgeTech still does tend to go towards more of the care component of aging, which is certainly a major component. I'm particularly interested in the tech-enabled services and data components that allow us to intervene and learn how to live better, longer, and what we can do in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s to increase the likelihood of a healthy, of an increased health span. So there wasn't that much there around longevity. And I encourage more founders and more people to really see how they can participate in the event and showcase the other opportunities to live longer, better.
Fantastic. Gordon, what do you think?
I would love to see some forward-thinking senior living center or senior center organize a field trip of their participants and members and constituents. Bring them all into either the ARP, the AgeTech Collaborative Pavilion, or the Digital Health Pavilion, and just let them go nuts. And basically, and maybe film them, I think it's a great way to get user feedback, because we all think these are fantastic gadgets and gizmos and they're going to solve everything. Well, how about the people that they're actually designed for? We just say, have at it. And if they pick it up and they have no clue what to do and walk away, then that's valuable feedback. And I think that'd be a great place to get that.
What a fantastic
That's
challenge.
A brilliant idea.
That's
Gordon.
the challenge. So let's
because we all drink this Kool-Aid. We've got these glasses on, literally.
Right.
Sometimes they're really cool glasses. And we think, oh, well, my grandmother's going to love this, and you get back and you order one for your grandmother and she has no interest in it. And you think, why didn't it work? So, talk to these people, get them right in front. And I think the developers would learn a lot there. I don't think a lot of them have done collected that kind of user feedback. They've done, as Jeff says, a lot of them have a personal origin story. And I built this for my grandfather and he loved it, so the world needs it.
Well,
and
then what if we put a challenge on the table then? I think we need to find a solution collectively to bring 200 older adults next year to CES. And I'm going to put this out there where they don't pay a dime.
Right.
So 200, that's our number. And if we beat it, great, but we've got less than a year to figure it out. So,
all right, are we in for the challenge? Everybody on the
sounds like a movement.
I'm on board.
Okay.
We need flights, we need hotels, we need tickets, and I think it's very doable.
Chairs too,
and wheelchairs
too. No, but I think this. Gordon, that just evoked a level of excitement in me that I think is a brilliant idea, because that's what we've always said about is that my frustration of this industry is I get calls well after the fact. And I'm like, why did you waste a year of your life doing this? Like, I mean, it is not a problem we need to solve today. It is a 5 to 7 year problem that isn't even really on our radar. So if we can get the people earlier, the stuff that could be created or even pivoted right would be incredible. So
I'll act, by the way, just as a little side note, I think being at our booth all the hours I talked to certainly a couple of dozen of young entrepreneurs in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had any advice to everybody, it's 2 words: code last. Everybody had gone out and written they were all ready to launch their MVP, and they don't really know what problem they're solving or for who. Well, you really need to spend your time understanding what problem you're solving for who and get validation on that before you pay somebody to start writing lines of code, because that sure is expensive, and a lot of that's going to get thrown away.
No, I think it's brilliant, Jeff. I think you and I have had a lot of talks around that. Is like, don't rush. I mean, have your idea, but don't rush the final execution of it, right? Don't think that your first iteration is going to be your ultimate iteration and start, diving all in. I think you've got to, burn the boats and sell and take over the island, but you've got to be willing to listen to the industry and the needs of those that you serve to truly build the best model system product that you can. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
It's kind of the Hollywood model, right? If in Hollywood they had these ideas and just started filming all movies that cost $1 billion, because they'd have to throw everything away and start all over.
Right.
So you got to really figure out what you're going to want to do and why, and get validation on it before you start spending those really expensive dollars and sacrificing the precious months and years of your life. Hopefully there's more discovery going on as new entrepreneurs decide that they want to approach this marketplace.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that, Jeff, and I cannot thank you, all three of you, enough. Joel, Gordon, Jeff, thank you so much for being the leading voice of this industry, right? When it comes to the improving, using technology to improve the way we age and the way we serve those that are aging. I think that is huge impact you guys are having. And I also think too, the way you have brought to light that this isn't just an aging issue, right? It can serve the platitude from children to middle adults to older adults. And I really think that that is so important. And just want to say thank you for sharing your knowledge and your information. Really do appreciate it.
Thank
you for your time today. Absolutely. And we're excited to do the same thing next year, although we'll be at CES because we are all taking up this challenge to bring 200 people who aged to the event.
The older adult field trip.
Very exciting.
Older adult field trip. There we go.
All right. So more to come on that.
Absolutely. Well, everybody have a great rest of your Friday, wonderful weekend, and we will talk soon.
Thank you again, guys. See you soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Francis. Thanks, Catherine. It's a pleasure.
Bye.